Okay, let's talk about it. I am so excited to be here today. And for these live streams, I hope that we can get really good with the tech. But I really want to dive a lot deeper. And while I'm so grateful to have platforms like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, where you can throw a 5 second or 10 second or a 60-second video up, I recognize that what's missing with that is depth and really allowing for the audience to go deep on their time. And, today is going to be short. I'm going to try to keep these relatively short, maybe 15 or 20-minute long videos. But today I want to talk about the scripture in which Jesus Christ does the Sermon on the Mount, and he talks about not casting your pearls to swine. Now, I've been a detox coach professionally since 2019. I've helped thousands of people to overcome chronic illness. And the process of putting myself out there and being known has been such a journey. I've learned so much about myself and I've learned so much about the world and I've learned so much about people. And one of the greatest things I've learned is that this might sound crazy, but not everyone has the same desires and values for their life as you. And coming out of this last season of my life, I recognize that it's okay for other people to not have the same desires for their life. And you don't have to fight for everyone to desire a better life. Now, I acknowledge in this climate, and if you hear in the background, my daughter, my 4-year-old daughter's in the background coloring. In this climate in the United States right now, we have a lot of people who have a desired outcome, but they do not want the life that it takes to get that outcome. And when you have a conflict of the actions that you're willing to take, the values that you hold near and dear, and the boundaries that you must draw in order to get to the outcomes, that's when there's conflict. So, when I was in this last season of my life, my husband got really sick from mercury teeth poisoning. I was dealing with postpartum, just the realities of having a 1 and a 2-year-old, running a business, being an online personality, dealing with staff, dealing with payroll, and I also had a root canal that was infected and actually had a cavitation. All this kind of happened at once, and when I was kind of coming close to the end of the journey, end of the healing journey for myself, and my husband's teeth were healed, my babies are now toddlers, that scripture kept kind of repeating in a loop on my head. And I got baptized in the June of 2025. And I kept hearing this, do not throw your pearls to swine. Do not throw your pearls to swine. And it was so challenging for me to hear that because my whole mission for since my mom passed away in 2019 and I started consulting people on health has been helping people avoid the pain of the outcome of not valuing health. But what I have come to realize is that you can't force a person to value their health. You can't scream loud enough. You can't show them enough pictures. You cannot do enough to change the value system for people and therefore change their actions and their boundaries. And when you sit with yourself and you really learn what you value, you will feel so much more peace. You will feel so much more peace because you will not take actions, you will not break boundaries that don't align with the value. And this is where a lot of my clients who have amazing success struggle because they value health. They value health so much, but they're casting their pearls onto swine when they try to convince their family members or friends or colleagues to also value health. You can't change people's values. And when you try to change a person's values, that creates the conflict. Do not throw your pearls onto swine. Some people truly value a hospital and medical experience. Some people, when they sign up to work at a job, they are going to take advantage of the health insurance that they got. And that their value. Part of what they calculate when they work is, well, I work for this company and I pay into this and I work hard and I want to get the free healthcare. And it's not free, it's that they work into it. And so that's what they value. When you come to someone who has that mindset of, I want to go to the doctor for my healthcare. Thank you very much. That is a value system. And so they're going to take actions and they're going to set boundaries that align to that. Now, here's where you need to keep your mouth shut and stop throwing your pearls to swine, because the second part of that quotation is that they will stomp on your pearls and turn and destroy you. That is how it goes. So, people have values. They then set boundaries based on those values and they take aligned actions. Sometimes action is a non action. So, someone who values Western medicine, their boundary is, I listen to what my doctor says. And so, whatever that medical system says is their boundary. And then the actions are going to be, I'm going to listen and I'm going to do what the doctor says. So, I'm going to get shot up. I'm going to not think that I have any control or power in my health outcomes because my doctor said it's just genetic. That's their value, that's their boundary, and that's their actions. And so when you come to them and perhaps you value self healing, you value terrain theory, you value ownership, and you say to them, usually after all of that leads to an outcome that they don't desire, like their child has a problem, they have a medical problem, they don't have energy. So they come to you and say, I don't like this outcome. You need to keep your mouth shut. Do not throw all your pearls onto swine because they will turn and feast on you. So someone could very well come to you and say, I went to the doctor and I was given antibiotics and it led to my skin having horrible eruptions and I feel so ill and I'm dying. And you say, well, you could try to rebuild your gut. I have read a lot of health. Oh, they're going to on you and attack you. And that is where we all need to really just spend the next weeks and months and years checking in with our values so that we know when and who to express ourselves to. Because it's frankly not safe to express your values to everyone. And the issues in society really come down to the fact that most people don't know what their values are. They just go along with the flow of what everyone else is doing. And so the outcomes that they get from the flow of that value that they probably didn't even assign for themselves, the boundaries that they set for themselves and the actions that they take lead to outcomes that don't align to who they are in their soul or in their body, and they're unhappy. If every one of us took that radical accountability, and unfortunately we won't, and I encourage everyone to do this. If you, whatever you align to or believe in, you need to acknowledge your values. And when you really know your values, you will be okay with the outcomes of your boundaries and actions. When you don't establish your values, that's when you're unhappy with the outcomes. And so when you know your values, you also will not throw your pearls onto swine, and you won't have to deal with being attacked, and you won't have to deal with the stress, and you'll have the time and energy to find people who do align to your values, mentors who do align to what you believe in, and also friends and partners and business associates that align to who you are. It's hard for me to believe. I know this sounds silly. Not everyone believes in hard work. Not everyone values, and I think part of this is cultural conditioning because I don't believe that most people have actually experienced the payoff of a really good hard day's work. But there are people who just do not value hard work. They never will. And when you try to force a person to value hard work and you put them in circumstances and boundaries, and then you have them take actions, it can make them really miserable. And this is where, as a coach, as an influence in this society, in this world, Ginger to Clue, I've come to terms with the fact that some people are actually okay with getting cancer. They actually are okay with taking a lot of medications. They actually are okay with the outcome. And my greatest frustrations have come from trying to lower myself down or make myself palatable to people who just do not value accountability, hard work, and their health. It doesn't make me better or them better or worse or anything. It's just understanding the values. So that's my first little chat with you guys. Figure out what you value. The best way to figure out what you value is to understand the outcomes that you want and then you work back from the actions and the boundaries that you establish. It's the easiest way to discover what you value. If you want the outcome of a big house and a great car and a great neighborhood and you value those things or you want those outcomes, you're going to have to value sobriety. You're going to have to set boundaries of sobriety, boundaries of healthy eating, boundaries of sleep hygiene, boundaries of what I'm going to put myself into and what I'm not, and then take those aligned actions and you get the outcomes that you want based on the values. But the fact is, not a lot of people would actually enjoy the outcome of success. It's crazy for me to think about it because I have had so much success, but that success all came from my values. I know what I value, I know who I am, and I'm only getting clearer about that as I age. I'm getting closer and clearer to my value of what I love in this life and what brings me peace. I always, I was been talking about this for the last few weeks with people, and I was saying like I grew up on the East Coast. And Gigi, if you could be a little quiet, darling. I'm doing a video. I love you, but you got to be quiet if you're going to be in here. um, and I grew up on the East Coast, and we have this chain of convenient like gas stations. Thank you so much. She drew me a picture. And these convenience gas stations are called. Okay, thank you. Go up with daddy. These gas stations are called Wawa. And I can remember really clearly, I went to Montgomery County Community College for my senior year of high school, and I practically every day of that year going to community college, there was a Wawa on Bluebell Skipback, like right at the corner of like Bluebell and Skipback Highway. And I would go into Wawa, and this is before I had my awakening, and I would have like a 5-hour energy and like this giant coffee that was like half creamer and like just really, really bad, like just had no idea what I was doing. But I remember there was a lot of women who worked at this Wawa, and Wawas are kind of a chain, so they're all over the place. But there was women who worked at Wawa. I'm going to paint the picture. Her name is Linda. She has blonde hair. It's a perm. She smokes Newports. She's got blue eyes and she's a little bit overweight. She's probably like 5'4" and 180 pounds. And you know what? Linda valued that her dollar was just to get her cigarettes and go home. And that was her life. And she was actually really happy. And this isn't just one person, but there's like this archetype of women. And I remember even in the last years thinking, how could anyone want to be a Linda? Like, how could anyone want to be working at Wawa, smoking Newports, and being overweight? And when I went through this healing process for myself and just kind of expanding my knowledge base and going to Mexico, learning about stem cell therapy, all of this, do not throw your pearls onto swine. It's not saying that that person is less than, it's saying that they value different. And they're probably happy. Trying to force Linda to go on a juice cleanse and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning doesn't align to her values, and that is just fine. Like, it's hard for me, but that's just fine. That's totally okay. Um, and I think if we just, like I said, as a society, knew our own value systems better, we would just be so much happier, and there would be a lot less friction, and we would make decisions that align to outcomes we desire, you know? The I know I said last thing I'm gonna say because I love doing these, like, I love long form. We see a lot of millennials who are very angry at the outcome. They thought that they valued education and that the value of education would equate to an outcome of a lot of money. And that's just because they weren't willing to do their own digging and they just went with the current. They took out hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans and they have such a structure, which is the boundaries that I was talking about. So their boundary is that higher education is the only education. So they're angry that the outcome isn't this big successful life, even though they have a lot of education within a boundary of Harvard, Temple, UCLA, right? These schools that are accredited and esteemed and acclaimed. And so they are so angry at their outcomes, but they won't take actions to change the outcome because their idea of knowledge only lives inside of this boundary that is, you know, hospitals, doctors, accredited, number one college. And those of us who went around and outside of that box of the boundary of like, it has to come from some official narrative, we're thriving because we are taking actions to actually grow our usability. So I think a lot of millennials, most millennials, we were just raised to love knowledge. And I know I'm one of them, and I know I definitely fell into that category of thinking that the boundary, the patriarchy, and we're gonna talk about that in another video I'm really excited about, um, how we need the matriarchy and the patriarchy. If you wanna do your homework on that one, watch the documentary that James Cameron put together for Way of the Water and how they created a patriarchy, a system to film the matriarchy, the water, the way of the water. So you need both. You need that patriarchy system for the matriarchal energy to just create. Kate Winslet's able to go on screen and like do all this emoting and it's really beautiful. Both are needed. So patriarchies aren't bad. The problem is when you think that there's nothing outside of that and there's no other we can't build any new boundaries. We can't even build a building within the boundary that's already there. And this is where a lot of millennials are super angry and they voted for a literal socialist because they're so educated and the outcome is not success. But again, if they just were willing to maybe there's hope for the millennials because, hey, guys, the education is available. I just want to let you know it might come in the boundary that is detoxified to clue. It may come in some packaging that you're not familiar with because it doesn't have accreditation on it. And if you can just open your mind a little bit, like if you know you value knowledge, maybe just change your perception of the boundary that knowledge has to come out of. And you might get the outcome that you're looking for. You might get that outcome of, a lot of these layoffs. Maybe you just need to learn some new skills that aren't available at a four-year university. Maybe there's some salespeople on Instagram who you think are scammy, but they are actually helping people to develop skills that businesses desire. Maybe the boundary that is modern medicine, and you keep going to get cortisone creams for your psoriasis, and it's just not working. Maybe you need to break out of the bubble and break out of that boundary and take a little bit of different actions so that you can get the outcomes that you want. That's for those of you who are just like, "I'm willing though, Ginger. I'm willing to work hard. I do value hard work. I do value success. I'm not Linda. Don't compare me to Linda. Who do you think you are?" And by the way, I love you, Linda. We need Lindas. We need Lindas. We need people who love to work at the grocery store, but we need to stop all expecting to have the same outcome when we don't all have the same values. We're not willing to work within specific boundaries, and then we're wanting to take different actions, right? Not all actions create the same kind of outcomes, and that's okay. The world would be a much happier place if we could just figure out our values, establish our boundaries, and then take those aligned actions for an outcome that we want. So thanks so much for being here. I'm going to try to figure out how to do this better. I really want to do this. I've wanted to do this literally. I ordered all this equipment, this beautiful Shure mic and this great camera and this lighting. I ordered this all the way in July of 2023. My son was like 4 months old. Probably not the best undertaking to try to start a whole new thing when you have a 4-month-old baby. And at the same time, I had a 1-year-old. Gigi was like not even one yet. She was like 10 months or 11 months old. So maybe that was why I didn't quite pan out. But anyways, I am also going to be doing a masterclass. I'll leave that in the notes on this. I'm going to be doing a masterclass on Wednesday, and we're going to be going over just a lot of you guys have been asking about the dental work in Mexico and the stem cells and like what does that cost? What does that look like? How do you get involved in that? So I'm going to be going over that, what it takes to prepare for that, because FYI, you don't want to go have surgery, travel to have surgery and your body's inflamed. So we're going to talk about the prep and the outcomes and everything I learned from 14 and a half months of literally practically living in Mexico and learning about advanced alternative healing practices. So for those of you who are looking to go deeper, you're not a newbie. This is definitely not like first level beginner information. It might intimidate you if you're a newbie. If you love information, you might like it, but definitely more geared towards people who really do value their health, right? Like you value health, you were willing to invest, you want to be like the best you. Definitely the webinar for you. And then I'll just have to be really conscientious, like for the first time in I'm not exaggerating, for the first time in 2025, I had the inspiration to write down ideas for content. So all of this that I've always done has been inspired by God. My work, I believe, has been inspired by the divine. And there was a long period where pretty much the end of 2024, I realized that I was trying to force people who don't share my values to be like me. And a lot of people wanted to force themselves to be like me because they wanted the same outcome, but they're just not going to get it. I talked a lot about like the ghetto black demon. People really got all hot and bothered by that. And part of that is like, they're just the values, like it all played out. And I think God just needed me to kind of see that and close the door on that, right? Like the end of 2024 was a lot of frustration. Coming into 2025, I was very frustrated. And I had been talking about, this boundary that is social welfare that's going to collapse. Like I saw that coming for a long time. My mom was talking to me about that. My mom's been dead since 2019. She was telling me about that. She's in the 90s. The systems are going to be going away. Like you can't ever depend on this boundary. For my astrology people, it's just, figure yourself out because the a lot of these boundaries are collapsing. It's part of age of Aquarius. Like it's just the way it is. Like these boundaries are going to collapse. New boundaries need to be built. And like I said, shouting to people who do not share the same values just exhausted me, led me to be under attack, and God kind of put me in the quiet place and in the safe place, for the last like 6 months. And I'm just so grateful because it's been like the best time. I did a 40-day water fast, got to finish my care in Mexico. My husband got to finish his care in Mexico, and really coming on the other side, like with all these ideas. Like when I tell you that I've posted something like 3,200 TikTok and Instagrams and YouTube videos, like That's not an exaggeration. I've made thousands of videos. When I tell you that it's giving Prince, it's giving Michael Jackson, like, the inspiration for videos would literally, like, come to me. Like, I wasn't even the one. Obviously, I was the one who had to do the videos, but, like, it would be like, "You need to talk about this, like, this is what you need to say, this is what you need to do," and I just wasn't hearing that, and I even, like, when I got baptized, I was like, "God, like, where are you? I can't hear you," That's part of why I got baptized, like, I can't hear you, angels," and this last, like, 2-week period, I have literally, like, 100 podcast ideas for these longer form videos, and again, Taurus wanting to keep things the same, that boundary worked, right? Like, make the 30-second video, make the trending sound video. Yes, like, do that. Again, it wasn't attracting people who have the value of paying attention. You know what I mean? Like, you wanna do a detox, right? I've built this amazing company and this amazing program that's like, we're curing cancer. We're People are passing fibroids out of their body, right? Like, 30 years they've had psoriasis, it's gone. That is not done with the wave of a magical wand. And so, God was like, "Why are you trying to force the short form? Like, you can do short form, Ginger, but you can't say you value depth." Right? Like, I value depth. I value depth. Listen, I wanna sit and, like, I wanna go there. Like, I wanna talk about all the things. I wanna, release the wounds. Like, that's me. That's the kind of coaching I do. That's the kind of programs I make. Does it make it better or worse? There's some coaches who make beginner $22, "Here's where to buy a juicer. Here's how to cut your like, buy a cutting board," right? That's nothing wrong with a $22 guide and a very, coaches who wanna help the absolute beginner, and I've helped the absolute beginner, but I value the depth. And so when I have coaching calls and these people are like, "Yes, I have, like, everything done on the list. I'm prepared. I'm up." That person's deep, and then it's not fair to them, and this is where I was frustrated at the end of last year, to the other person who's like, I don't do I need, like, a blender or juicer? Like, I know that this is a detox, and I know that you literally explain in your video that this is, like, a mainly fruit-based cleanse, but, like, I don't own a cutting board or a knife." Like, it's like, "What?" Like, the vibe was kind of felt like there were times where it felt like there were these people who were in, like, 11th grade ready to, like, kill cancer and pass a fibroid, and then these other people who are in, like, the kindergarten, and they're like, "I don't know how to read," and it's like, again, there's neither is better, and this is so important through my process of baptism and, you know, reading the scriptures, learning the scriptures more, infusing everything I've learned about spirituality and understanding, like, it's literally spirituality is the feminine version of, or it's the feminine aspect of the patriarchy of religion, and it's all just coming together so beautifully for me. But part of it has been not assigning any value to what, like, other people's actions or where other people are, and just acknowledging, more just looking at it very objectively, like, "That's you. Like, you're Linda, you're at the Wawa, and you're happy. Good for you, Linda." And then also looking to that person who's like, "I've followed you for 5 years, and I'm so ready to do this, like, let's go." And be like, "Yep, we're 2 different vibes." And maybe, like, part of this breakthrough I've had too is, like, maybe I will create something that is, like, super, super beginner, but the thing is, I'm not gonna, I've always found that, like, cheap things attract cheap people, and cheap people always they gave you $27, like, I gave you $27, like, yeah, huh." I'm like, "Bro," like, I've done things that were like $100, and it's like, it's $100, like, it's a recorded videos that I paid a videographer and, like, paid people to help me put these directions for you together, like, babe, So, that's something too where, like, I have to pray about it more of, like, "What do you value, Ginger?" Like, "You value depth. You value quality. Some of us are just value that quality, and I don't need to force myself to be, like, surface level. There are people who are surface level, and that's okay too. Like, know who you are, know what you're looking for, and pray about it. So, like I said, I hope you enjoy this. I'm gonna try to do these. I hopefully will do them, like, maybe just on Sundays or figure something out. My kinda schedule for at least the rest of the year is, like, Su Sunday do my coaching calls, Sunday do my, long form videos, and then Wednesday do my master classes because YouTube. Another thing is, like, I have gotten my videos deleted a lot on YouTube. So, looking into other things like Rumble, YouTube is definitely, like, dangerous territory. You can't just say anything. You have to be careful. Like, even on this live, I'm thinking, "Did I say things that might get me in trouble?" Hopefully not. Um, so just kind of figuring out and, like I said, creating boundaries of, like, "Okay, this is what the like, through the end of the year looks like." Sunday is really, like, heavy on my church. I go to church in the morning, and then client stuff and, like, video stuff. Wednesday, we can do that masterclass where it's private, like, I can say what I want because it's private, and then I do filming on Tuesdays, and I have, like, other stuff I do, but, yep, we're gonna do this. I appreciate you being here, and if you're into depth and you want deep conversations, you want history, you want context, you want nuance, you want jokes, you have humor. I'm the right person for you. If you don't have nuance, if you can't handle hard conversations, if you want surface, I'm not the right one. And that's not anything against you or I. It's just we're not the same or we don't have the same vibe. And if you find the vibe that's for you, there'll be a lot less friction. So I really desire for you to find the right vibe if that's in my content or in someone else's, but just know who you are and then you won't spend all your time fighting in these comment sections. Remember, your health is your wealth. We all deserve to be rich.